They say the past is silent. But sometimes when you lean close enough, history whispers back with a voice so dark, so unsettling, that you wonder how such truths ever survived the centuries. Tonight, I'm going to take you into one of those shadows, a place the Roman Empire never wanted you to see. A place buried beneath the roar of crowds, beneath the sand of the arena, beneath the propaganda of emperors who promised civilization while hiding something far more disturbing. If you stay with me, you will hear a story the ancients tried to bury, a truth that has been pieced together only in fragments, inscriptions, hints from old poets, and the cold stones of forgotten underground chambers. And once you understand what happened there, you may never look at Roman history the same way again. Imagine standing inside the Colosseum at dawn, long before the crowds arrive. The air is cold. The arena floor is still, almost peaceful. But deep below, in the maze of passages the Romans called the hypogeum, something else is stirring, something the official histories rarely mention. The Romans wrote proudly about their roads, their marble temples, their laws, their legions. But they were far more careful about the things that might make the empire look less heroic. They were careful with the things that whispered of cruelty disguised as entertainment, of bureaucracy wrapped around suffering, of power expressed in ways that had nothing to do with honor or glory. One of those truths was the fate of the captiva, the conquered women taken from defeated cities, villages, and tribes, transported across oceans and continents, and delivered into the machinery of Roman power. To the Romans, these women were not citizens. They were not even considered people under the law. They were classified as res, property, objects, things. And in the world of the arena, they became part of a system so normalized, so structured, that even Rome's own writers mentioned it casually, as if it were simply part of the ordinary rhythm of imperial life. But when you examine the fragments, the hints, the graffiti, the jokes of Roman poets who assumed their audience already knew the system, a disturbing picture emerges. The gladiators fought. The crowd roared. And afterward, in the tunnels below, the state distributed human beings as rewards. Not metaphorically. Literally. This practice, Victoria Carnales, the victory of the flesh, was not a rumor, not an exaggeration, not a barbaric accident. It was a function of the Roman state. A system. A policy. A cold mechanism that turned human suffering into an incentive for fighters and a symbol of Rome's absolute power over the conquered. And if you walk through the ruins beneath the Colosseum today, you can still see the remains of that machinery. Stone benches. Iron rings set into the walls. Small chambers that locked from the outside. Spaces designed not for comfort or for shelter, but for control. Functional, efficient, terrifying in their practicality. As we dive deeper into this story, remember something important. The louder Rome loved to shout about justice and virtue, the more carefully it hid the places where those ideals fell apart. And yet the truth survived, buried in poems, satire, inscriptions, and the bones of buildings that could not lie. Stay close. Because the deeper we go, the darker it gets. You see, to understand Victoria Carnales, you have to understand Rome's obsession with dominance, not just physical dominance, but psychological dominance. When Rome conquered a territory, it did not simply take the land. It dismantled the spirit of its enemies piece by piece, making sure the empire's power felt absolute, unchallengeable, permanent. The arena was a stage for this message. Every scream, every cheer, every spectacle was designed to remind people, citizens, foreigners, freedmen, slaves, that Rome held life and death in its hands. But there was a part of the spectacle the public rarely saw directly. After the combat ended, the victorious gladiators were escorted below. The crowd often assumed they went to be washed, fed, treated, or honored. But in many cases, another ritual awaited them, one kept out of sight, not because it was secret, but because it was normalized to the point of invisibility. A bureaucrat, a functionary, a keeper of the state records would mark victories, tally rewards, and distribute human captives the same way they distributed weapons, coins, or rations. And the captiva, held in those small stone rooms beneath the arena, had no say. They were moved like livestock from one battle day to the next, warehoused beneath Rome's greatest symbol of entertainment. It is one thing to read that the Roman Empire was built on conquest. It is another to realize that conquest did not end on the battlefield. It continued beneath the amphitheaters, in dim corridors where echoes carry but daylight never enters. If you're still here listening, then you're one of the rare ones, someone who wants the real history, not the sanitized version. And if you appreciate this journey into the hidden corners of the ancient world, you should subscribe to the channel. It tells me you want more of these forbidden stories, the ones that reveal how history truly worked, not how textbooks pretend it did. Now, back into the shadows. The poet Martial, writing in the 1st century, mentioned the system almost casually. His audience already understood what happened after the games. He joked about gladiators receiving prizes and rewards of victory. But when you look closer at the context and the other passages around his writing, the joke stops being funny. He was referring to captiva, women taken from conquered peoples and handed out by the state, as if they were trophies made of flesh rather than metal or stone. Martial never described the system in detail, because he didn't need to. The Romans already knew. The empire already knew. Everyone understood the grim reality beneath the jokes. Archaeology has filled in the rest. When researchers mapped the hypogeum beneath the Colosseum, they found small rooms with stone benches and walls outfitted with iron rings. These were not prison cells in the usual sense. They were too small, too isolated, too purposefully arranged. Their placement matched descriptions from literary texts about where captiva were held before distribution. These rooms were built for containment, for control, for repeated use. Their design was not chaotic or improvised. It was standardized. This wasn't a crime of individuals. This was a function of the empire. And the empire went even further. Rome's appetite for spectacle did not stop at combat. Emperors staged mythological reenactments so elaborate, so shocking, that ancient writers described them with awe and horror. Prisoners condemned as criminals were forced to play the roles of mythic figures, roles that often ended in real death, real suffering, real humiliation. These performances were advertised in advance, promoted on posters, carved on stone, whispered through the streets. They were not accidents. They were attractions. For the Roman crowd, this was entertainment. For the captiva and other condemned people, it was a stage from which they would never return. And yet, the remarkable thing, the thing that astonishes historians today, is how carefully Rome managed its public image. The same empire that built chambers beneath the arena built libraries above it. The same state that orchestrated brutality commissioned statues of gods, sponsored poetry, and crafted an identity around order and justice. It is this contradiction that makes Rome so endlessly fascinating. An empire that saw itself as the pinnacle of civilization while maintaining systems of cruelty so structured that they feel almost modern in their efficiency. Take a moment and imagine the sound of the crowd above. Tens of thousands of voices. The thunder of applause. The chants echoing across stone and marble. Now imagine the silence below. The quiet breathing of the captiva in the dark. The footsteps of guards. The distant clatter of chains and keys. Two worlds existing in the same space but never touching. Two realities, one glamorous, one grim, separated only by a floor of wooden planks and sand. And across centuries, the whispers of these forgotten people still linger. They linger in the iron rings that rusted in place. In the benches carved by hands long gone. In the writings of men who joked about suffering because it was simply part of the world they knew. In the ruins that now sit open to the sky, where sunlight finally reaches places that were once kept deliberately dark. Let me pause for just a moment. If stories like this, Stories that peel back the polished surface of ancient empires. Matter to you? Hit that subscribe button. This channel exists to reveal the truths buried beneath the myths, and every subscription helps us bring these hidden histories back into the light. Because what we're doing here is more than storytelling. It is remembrance. It is witnessing. Now we come to the heart of the matter. The question modern people always ask when they learn about Victoria Carnales: why did Rome do this? Why create a system so cruel, so cold, so deliberately engineered? The answer lies in power. Rome understood something about human psychology that few empires before or since have mastered. They knew that spectacle could teach lessons more effectively than laws. That public rituals could communicate dominance more clearly than any speech. That when you turn suffering into entertainment, you reshape the collective imagination. You redefine what is normal, what is acceptable, what is imaginable. And so the arena became a mirror of Rome itself, dazzling on the surface, brutal beneath. The gladiators fought for honor or survival, the citizens watched for pleasure, and the captives suffered because the empire needed them to. Every group played a role. Every group reinforced the same message: Rome decides. Rome controls. Rome rules. And yet the deeper truth, the truth buried beneath all this, is that the empire was not invincible. The fact that these stories survived at all is proof that the Romans did not fully control the narrative. Fragments escaped. Whispered memories endured. Archaeology revealed what propaganda tried to hide. And today, in the ruins beneath the Colosseum, you can walk through corridors that once witnessed the machinery of an empire that eventually fell. As you step into those spaces, it hits you. Rome built monuments as if they would stand forever, as if the empire were eternal. But stone forgets nothing. And when the empire collapsed, the ruins remained, carrying secrets the emperors never intended for us to uncover. This is why history matters, because the past is never as simple as the stories empires tell about themselves. It is more complicated, more human, more painful, and more real. And that brings us to the end of this journey. But not the end of the story. Because Rome fell, yet its shadows remain. The Colosseum still stands, weathered but defiant. The chambers beneath it are empty now, silent and still. But if you listen closely, if you pay attention, you can feel the weight of what happened there. The echoes of footsteps. The murmurs of forgotten lives. The truth of a world that celebrated its own greatness while burying its darkest rituals out of sight. And maybe that is the real lesson. Empires rise. Empires fall. But the truth, the real truth, always finds a way back to the surface. Thank you for walking into the shadows with me. If you want to keep uncovering hidden histories, lost civilizations, and the secrets ancient empires tried to erase, you know what to do. Stay curious. Stay searching. And join me next time as we peel back another layer of the past, one truth at a time.